Afghanistan. He's been a journalist for many years, and he joined the diplomacy, and he is with us now. Let me introduce him to you. Muhammad Naeem Tahir Qadri. Tahir Qadri is the Charge d'Affaires of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan to India. A journalist turned diplomat. He has a master's degree in global governance and international public policy from the University of London and a bachelor's degree in political science, diplomacy and administration from Bath University in Afghanistan, and a diplomacy in journalism and English language from Swan College, Oxford University, and is a bilingual journalist from the BBC Journalism Academy. He started his first job with the BBC monitoring in 2003, right after the fall of the Taliban, and worked till 2008. He then set up one of the first English and literacy schools in north of Afghanistan and launched the first daily newspaper called Sahar, or the Dawn. During 2008 to 2015, he worked as producer, reporter, presenter in BBC Persian television based in London. He was Director General of Mitra Global TV Network nationwide in Afghanistan from 2015 till May 2019. He was Director of the BBC Monitoring, Peshawar Reuters agencies in northern Afghanistan. He was founder and director of Jahesh Charity Organization Kabul, a non-political, non-profit organization working to promote the culture of volunteerism in society and work as a change agent. He also served as political media analyst for the International Security Assistance Force, ISAF, in northern Afghanistan. He participated in many conferences, including the recent Warsaw and Brussels summits on Afghanistan, and covered them for media and established contacts with high-profile officials and donors. He has won the prestigious One World Media Award, equivalent to Oscars in the media in London, for being a new voice in journalism and leadership for his creative and in-depth analysis on Afghanistan. He was awarded the Utlesat Award for Best Documentary of the Year in Venice. He has produced, directed, presented more than 10 award-winning documentaries for BBC World TV, Persian TV. He speaks English, Pashto, Persian, Dari and Urdu. He is married and has one daughter. I have requested him to show us one of his award-winning documentaries. Thank you very much, Tahir, for coming and bringing that. Would you like to say something about the documentary before we screen it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, my friend. First of all, I really appreciate I appreciate and express my gratitude to you and to your team for organizing such a great event. I know that such an important issue is happening here in India, despite lots of our colleagues and friends. They have come all the way here, so I appreciate it. And later on, of course, we will have a candid discussion regarding Afghanistan today. But this documentary, I made it in 2011. In 2008, I moved to London. I was employed by the BBC. Well, in 2003 I went, but then I got back to Afghanistan. But in 2008, when I went there, you know, I always was sad when the media, they were picking up negative points on Afghanistan. And then I always wanted to do something really, to show the other side of Afghanistan, because the picture is not always black and white. So then I gave the idea of making a documentary myself. And then I remember my line manager saying that, well, that's a good idea, but give me, like, what do you want to do? And then I tell her that this is my idea, I want to show the world my Afghanistan, you know, from the lens of my camera. So most of this has been shot by myself as well. At the same time that I was a presenter, producer, director, and I was filming it as well. And then later I was joined by some of our colleagues back in Afghanistan to help me with this. At the beginning, we didn't think it would be like a documentary, so we thought perhaps it would be only a 10 minutes vlog. But then we changed it into a documentary, which was broadcast in English, in Persian, on BBC Persian, in Pashto as well, then Uzbek got it, BBC Uzbek, so it was like broadcast in a wide range of BBC platforms. So I now invite you. It may have ups and downs, so because as I said, it was one of my very first works, of making documentaries. So please pardon that. But what I've tried in this film is to show a glimpse of what Afghanistan today looks like. This is an Afghanistan of 2011, but the country has changed a lot. So there is much progress since then. And there is a young generation, which I will later be talking about, which again in this film I've tried to touch base on that as well. So if I will invite colleagues to...
On the international news channel. Expect to meet historians and politicians, yes, but could we really be about to present us with the first rock band in Kabul in 30 years? You decide in My Kabul.
Kabul, capital city, power center. A city which has attracted the attention of ancient kings across the region, a place which has gone through several years of war, but now Kabul is reaching out to the modern age.
Hello, I'm Taher Qadri from BBC Persian Television, reporting for BBC World News. Welcome to Kabul. This city is over 3,500 years old. It is the capital and the economic and cultural heart of Afghanistan. As you can see from where I'm standing, Kabul is blessed with natural beauty. But as we all know, it also has its problems. I want to show you how the ordinary people of this city live their daily life.
I have come back here to my hometown to look beyond the fighting and the politics and to meet some of Kabul's ordinary residents. 60 years ago, Kabul had a population of 200,000. Today almost 4 million people are squeezed into the city. Fitting them in is a struggle. The sewage system cannot cope, and according to government figures, at least 3,000 people die every year as a result of poor sanitation. As the population has swelled, so has the traffic. Every day, more than 500,000 cars choke Kabul's narrow streets. I start my journey in the old town of Kabul, where the Afghan civilization was born. The first settlements in Kabul date back more than 3,500 years. The city lies nearly 2,000 meters above sea level, nestled beneath two mountains. The city's architecture is a glorious mix of influences from Central Asia, India and Persia. Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire, who conquered Kabul in 1504, was so taken with the fine climate and spectacular views that he made the city his summer capital. In the Middle Ages, Kabul was surrounded by thick defensive walls with 7 doors built into them. Anyone coming or going would have to pass through these doors. I meet Abdul Wase, an engineer who is overseeing the construction work in the old town.
ببینید اصلا کابل دو چیز از دیگر جغرافیا تعریف میکنن. شهر کابل شهر قرار گرفته که در دامنه این کوه آخر در بلندی وجود داره که ما قرار بالای سر میگیم. اصلا مسکنی بسیار قدیمی کابل همونجا قرار داشت و از واقع جهت دریا پیر میشه که آبش از کوه بابا و فرمان به اطلاع شروع میشه و میره و از راه محیطت تا بالاخره به جلال آباد. فلهذا یک مکانی بسیار خوبی برای زندگی همیشه بوده. فصل بهارش مثلا خوشایند، فصل تابستانش گرم نیست، فصل خزارش پررنگ و زمستانش همیشه پربرگ و
Many of the houses in old Kabul are at least 200 years old. Walking through these narrow streets, it feels as if nothing has changed for centuries. Decorative architecture is one of the key features. You can still see some of it in the better preserved houses. These decorations go back thousands of years when Afghanistan was on the Silk Road, the trade route between Europe and China. I went to visit an old but very beautiful house in this part of Kabul. I meet Farzana, the owner.
این از جمله از یکی از خانواده‌های بسیار مشهور کابل، شهر خانه قدیم کابل است که به اسم عبدالعزیز لنگرزمین مشهور است و این از جمله از روستای از فامیلای خودمان میباشد که تقریبا قدامت تاریخیش که فکر کنیم از 200 سال شاید زیادتر هم باشه.
یعنی در گذشته ها کسی معلوم میشه که مثلا شهر خونه کابل در نقش نگاری و معماری خیلی خوب بودن.
به صورت عموم تمامش نیست. از جمله فامیلایی که بسیار ثروتمند مشهور و به حساب ادبیات دلی اگر بگوییم عیاران کاخه‌های شهر قدیم که بوده، این به این قسم خانه‌های وفا درست می‌کردن. به خاطر چی؟ به خاطر اینکه وقتی که ما هم از عیاران می‌گیریم، از کاخه‌ها می‌گیریم، باید تو اون قسم خالی می‌داشت که می‌تونست حتی به سری وزیر، پادشاه، رئیس وقت به اینجا بیاید دعوت شود و بعد علاوه از این مردم حامی که اینجا بودن. چون یا کاکا بودن، مردم حام به مراسم خاص وارد دعوت می‌کردن و از این خانه‌ها
Afghanistan's ancient rural traditions have a firm hold. Large numbers of people from the countryside have flooded into Kabul to escape the fighting. The influx of foreign aid is changing the face of the city. Private reconstruction like these shopping malls is another good example of the newer projects here. I asked some of the young locals how much freedom they have in Kabul.
البته از نگاه چیز بیشتر بالا شده خاطر مردم زیاد داره شما رو پیشن میگردن در ما خوش داره نگره پاس باشیم انتیک کلای خوش داره دیگر کنامت است که خودی هم آوج خاطر است حالتی آوزادی هم
اگر شامنه در روز کم اگر از 50 دلاری کسایی که ماش داشته باشه میان زیادتر مردمان میان که اگر طرفچه بلند هستن کاروبار و بزنس سعی دارن میتونن شاپینگ کنن.
Private companies run by foreigners have created job opportunities for a few lucky people, but most still have to do the unskilled and more unpleasant jobs.
اقتصاد مردم خیلی پایین است. مثلا معاش ماهواره مثلا یک کارمند دولت شاید خیلی کم باشه. پس چه قسم از نرخ‌ها در اینجا مثلا یک بلوز قیمتش چند است و در واقع خریدار یا هستن بیشتر؟ کسایی که عاید بلندتر داشته باشن میتونن به این مغازه‌ها بیاین. البته خریدارها میتونیم بگوییم که مردمای محدودی هستن که مثلا در دفاتر کار میکنن مثل من بچه‌ای که در دفاتر کار میکنن یا فامیلایی که از خارج آمدن نیست که بزنس پیشه هستن اونا میتونن که اینجا بیاین و خریداری کنن. مثلا اگر که بگیریم یک بلوزی که عالی است اما با کیفیت عالی است مثلا بلوزهای در پایان ها میتونیم پیدا کنیم یک قیمتش تقریبا از 20 دلار بالا است از 20 دلار برای بلوزهای اینا پایین نیست. خب در مجموع قیمت ها رو میتونیم بگوییم که از بازار دیگر بلندتر است.
But living in a luxurious part of town where Afghan government officials and foreign workers live also has its downside. Security is a real issue.
مثلا برای جواب وظیفه خوب دارم زندگی خوب دارم من نمیتونم از وقت دارم وقتی که زندگی من نمیتونم به فرانسه داشته باشم اما آدم نمیتونه که ایران پیشبین باشه که انتحاری میشن نمیشه وقتی که در پیشونی انتحاری نوشتنی است که او انتحار میکنه خوب نگران کردن داره اما بازم سر پلیس اعتبار داریم تا حدی وقتی که در شب برم رایت زیاد کنترل است موتورات چک میشن خوب است در این حال تشویش میکنه
In February 2010, the Taliban attacked Shahrinal and the famous Sofin and Mark Hotel. At least 17 people were killed. For one, security is an issue for all Afghans. Women have their own problems. Ancient religious beliefs run deep, and in some quarters, women's presence on the streets is frowned upon. But the shops still sell Western clothes, even if you can't see the women openly wearing them. In the 70s and 80s, women in Afghanistan had a lot more freedom. They were educated and were involved in politics and social affairs. Kabul even had female bus drivers. But under the Taliban, women were confined to the home and schooling for girls was banned. Today, even though lots of women work alongside men in offices, many still feel like second-class citizens.
فرهنگ ما و همین علامات افغانی‌ها یک علامات بسیار محکم است که مشکل است که ما در بیرون بریم یک دکان بگیریم کاربار شروع کنیم و دو مشکل اهمیت است که اگر ما بتونیم یک دکان در بیرون اگر بخواهیم بگیریم بازم نیروهای امنیتی ما هنوز قدر فهم و دانششان تا خوش داشته نرسیده که ما مثلا در جای دکان میگیریم اونا هم کار با ما باشه ما پیرانه سیتایی هم میکردیم در فضادیسی مریم با فروش میرسندم بعد هم آهسته از اینکه ما مواجه شدیم رفتیم با پاکستان وقتی که از جای ما پس به افغانستان آمدم ما یک مغازه را دانستم خریداری کنم و سرپرستی مغازه خدا و چندین خانم دیگه که در بخش صنایع دستی کار میکنن و در تجارت هم برای همکار هستن با اونا کار شروع کردم.
According to the Afghan Ministry of Education, 60% of people in Kabul are literate. Hundreds of schools have been built over the last few years. Nowadays, Kabul also has many private universities. It's not only civil freedom, but freedom of expression that has improved in this country. You can see hundreds of TV aerials around Kabul. Most of these TV stations are run by local influential people who often use the channels to promote their own political agendas. 20 years ago, Afghanistan had only one TV station. Under the Taliban, televisions were banned altogether. But today, there are more than 25 TV stations in Kabul alone. Tanya Kayhan is a correspondent for a private TV station in Kabul.
آقای رئیسانی، علت اشغال افغانستان توسط شوروی سابق چی بود؟ وضعیت رسانه‌ها در کابل گفتم می‌کنم که از طی 8 ساله که گذشته تا به حال فکر می‌کنم بهتر شدن. ظاهر شدن خانم‌ها در رسانه‌ها یک دستاورد بسیار بزرگ است در افغانستان. شاید قبل از 8 سال در افغانستان هیچ دختر نمی‌توانست که در این پرده ظاهر شود و کار بکنه در رسانه‌ها. حتی نمی‌توانست که در رقم پرده کار کنند چه خاصایی که اونا در تلویزیون ظاهر شوند.
و خانواده با محکومات قدر نگران است که از رفیق شما به شروع برسیم.
اول بسیار زیاد نگران بودن اونا وقتی که من کار کردم در تلویزیون بعدا آیسته آیسته نگرانی از او کاسته شد اما باز هم چون در یک محیط سنتی و قبیله‌ای ما زندگی میکنیم باز هم اونا ناراحت هستن از اینکه دخترشون در صحنه ظاهر میشه بالاخره پرزنت میکنن نیوز یا یک برنامه سیاسی را پیش میبرن بزرگترین آرزوی من و قابلی است که روز برسه که خانم‌های افغانستان در سراسر افغانستان در فضای امن و امنیت به سر ببرن اونا بتونن به مکتب برن اونا بتونن تحصیلات عالی خود را به پیش ببرن.
The music scene has also improved in the last few years. Under the Taliban, Afghanistan was dubbed a silent country. Today it's a much more colorful place. The TV channels show plenty of music and entertainment programs which attract a large audience. In the last few years, international program formats have found their way on Afghan television and people can now enjoy popular shows such as Who Wants to Be a Millionaire every week on domestic channels. Afghanistan now has its first rock band in 3 decades. Even though they were all born in Afghanistan, the band only sing in English, as they say they want to convey a message of peace to the outside world. I meet the band members and I speak to Sulaiman Kardosh, the lead singer, who is also the youngest at 18 years old.
مکتب موسیقی را در سال 2006 خلاص کردم دادستان دیگه فکر میکنم تقریبا از سالهای 2004 2005 که جدی‌تر به این چیز کار کردم مثلا اول که من کورس‌ها میرفتیم کورس موسیقی فقط عادی بود فارغ مکتب باز که من فکر کردم که خود من خیلی پیدا کردم میخواستم کمی بیشتر کیف کنم.
گروه کابل دریم چی وقت ایجاد شد و در واقع هدف اصلیش چی بود؟
گروه کابل دریم ما در 2008 ماه دسامبر تقریبا در ماه این گروه تشکیل دادیم. یک روز 6 نفر جمع کردیم اما من گیتار ما بودم و بعضی از موسیقار خودم در تعلیم بود و خودم ساخته بودم اونا را با اونا کار کردیم و چیز بد نبود یعنی خوش ما آمد مثلا خوش اونا آمد داشته گفتن که حالا موسیقی بد نیست یعنی صدای خوب بود ولی گفتن کار چرا گروه نکنیم ما خودم در این فکر بودم میخواستم گروه کنم و خود بچه هم در این فکر بودن که میخواستم گروه کنم باز از این وقت شروع کردیم اساس گروه را
خودت گوینده خبر هستی در یکی از رسانه‌های شخصی افغانستان چطوری دو کار را با هم پیش می‌برید؟
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم آره دنیای پرشور سلام علیکم همونطور عادی یعنی روزی هم خبر می‌خوانیم شبان رمضانی خبر می‌خوانیم یعنی دیگه اصلا خودم یک دفعه کوشش کردیم که خودم نشان بدم ولی نمی‌فهمم دیگه کلام از مردم است که خود میگیم یا مثلا خبر چطوری میگیم دیگه
سوال در مورد اولین آلبومتان بود که قرار است منتشر شود یعنی این آلبومتان فکر می‌کنی که چقدر فروش خواهد داشت و مردم چقدر دیگه می‌پسندند؟
این آلبوم EP آلبوم است Extended Play در آخرش 5 دانه آهنگ‌های ما است و به نام I Wanna Run Away من می‌خوایم فرار کنم یا من می‌خوایم فرار کنیم فرار کنیم آهنگ است دیگه هیچ نمی‌دونیم تحقیق زیاد کنیم یعنی از این آهنگ سر یادون یاد سازی کنیم یعنی چون ما خیلی خلاص کنیم سبت اینه که دیگه وایس ما ساب کردیم انواع بچه خود معنیسی نفر کل مسابقه لایو برای میکس آلبوم ما میکس مستقیم یعنی آلبوم رو ماراتون وزنستان قرار کرد کل گروه بره و از این مشکلات بود مشکلات ویزا و ترانسپورت و مادی یعنی ما کار کردیم تلاش اکثر ما کنیم یعنی هواپیما زیاد داریم.
And it's not just the men who are in the music business. Women have also defied tradition and are making a living in the entertainment industry. Farida Tarana is both a politician and singer.
من تقریبا 4.5 سال پیش من به صورت علنی یک آواز خوانده بودم و با او شدت برخوردهایی که برخورد کرده بودم و دیده بودم مثبت و منفی در این دوره که این فقط 4 سال میگذره بسیار راحت تر هستن مردم و این شیوه کار هر نظام و هر مملکت است که یک چیز نو در اول با بسیار برخوردهای شدید است. ما با یک دموکراسی نوپایی هستیم در افغانستان که همه چیز فقط در حالت شعار هست هنوز هم، اما این بودن خانواده اجتماع و با قول عامیانه این سماجت خوب خانواست که اونور نقشش پر رنگ کردن من میخوایم که این را ثابت بکنم که یک دختر افغان با اون تحقیرهایی که در زمان طالبان میشد که حتی حق درس خواندن نداشت با حفظ تمام کرامت‌ها و تمام اون حواس دخترانگیش میتونه واقعا یک آدم موفق در اجتماع خودش باشه و به خصوص به جهانیان که با یک دید دیگه در افغانستان میدیدن و ما هر از از هم دور نمیدیم بسیار نزدیک است و تا امروز بسیار موفق بودیم در جامعه‌ای که تا دیروز یک دختر حق نداشت آواز خود بکشه امروز نه تنها که آهنگ خوان اما در سیاست هم پشتیبان زیادی داشت که در شورای ولایتی من خوشبختانه دومین آرای بلند در سطح کابل داشت.
بزرگترین آرزویتان برای کابل چیست؟
آرزوی نیست که در کنار هم خوب و آزاد و همیشه سربلند باشن و بالخصوص افغانستان ما میخوایم یک افغانستان باشه مطرح در دنیا نه به خاطر جنگ به خاطر دستاوردهایی که در عرصه داشته باشه.
Farida's wish is still some way off, for although the main fighting is many miles away from Kabul, the city looks and feels like a war zone. Take this building, for example. From the outside, it looks like a security barracks, but inside, it is a different story. Most Afghans are prohibited from entering these buildings unless they hold a European or American passport. This is because of security issues. Kabul Health Club is one of the luxurious clubs in Kabul city where foreigners and few Afghans come to enjoy. However, in Kabul, there could be thousands of families who cannot afford these places. سلام. خوب هستین؟ سلام دارین؟ ببخشید مزاحم کارتان داشته باشم. خوب هستین؟ سلام دارین؟ چی کار میکنید اینجا؟
اینجا I have a فارسی انگلیسی فارسی اینجا یک آرایشگاه دارم اصلاح موی مردانه و زنانه سپا تریتمنت هیر تریتمنت we have مساج اتاق مساج اتاق فیشل است
اصلاح موی مردانه چند میگیرین مثلا؟
500 افغانی 500
افغانی بشه $10 از خانه ها چقدر؟
از خانه ها تقریبا $30 1,500
فکر میکنی که اقتصاد مردم افغانستان به اون حد است که او بتانن؟
بله میتونم به خاطر که من مراعاتا به امرای مردم افغانستان اما قیمت میگیرم اگر میری هتل 5 ستاره زیاد میگیرم.
شما خودتان از کجا هستین؟
من از فلسطین هستم.
از فلسطین هستین؟ و اینجا در افغانستان کار میکنید؟ Kabul evenings have also changed. Only a few years ago, this city didn't have any electricity at all. But all of that has now changed. Especially here, this place is full of lights. And some people even call it the Las Vegas of Kabul. Today is a happy day. It is my cousin's wedding, and I'm his best man. But having an extravagant wedding party is far too expensive for most Afghans. You have to invite hundreds of people like this, and paying for the dowry is another large expense. Traditionally, every groom has to have 3 parties like this. Each one can cost more than $10,000. Unfortunately, we come from the women's party. Only very close male relatives are allowed in. Over the last few years, I have returned to Kabul regularly, and every time I come back, I have seen improvements. But what people need most now is security, which is much more important to them than food or welfare. And will they eventually enjoy Kabul? Everyone is hopeful, and so am I.
Programme, BBC Person television reporter Tahir Kadiri has this.
That gives us a pretty good idea about what Afghanistan was like 8 years ago, which has changed a lot, and Tahir tells me that there is a new Afghanistan now. He's talking to us at a very crucial time. The US Special Envoy has had talks with the Taliban delegation in Doha over the weekend. I don't know if they had talks today also, I'm not sure if they did. And the Americans want to finish the deal by 1st of September so that elections for the presidency can take place. And by the way, Abdullah Abdali, who was the predecessor, he came here, he was there. Now he's going to fight for the presidency in Afghanistan, by the way, gentlemen and ladies. So tell us about the new Afghanistan you've been talking about, Tahir.
Thank you so much. So what you just saw was only a glimpse of Afghanistan in 2011. And as I said, Afghanistan has changed quite a lot, thank God, so have I. Because whenever I just look at those pictures, I feel bad. But anyway, I mean, this was an Afghanistan of 2011, and now you can imagine we are living in 2019. So the country has gained a lot in different spheres, which I will be just surely touching based on some of them. So perhaps for many people, when they hear the name of Afghanistan, many things come into their mind: bombs, soldiers, burqas, and much more. But that is the Afghanistan that we were living under the Taliban party. So that was, that was what we inherited from the Taliban. And when the Taliban came into power, I was a young kid at that point. So all the concepts of the human rights were thrown out of the country. I remember I was really young. Now imagine a teenager, get beaten by the Taliban for having long hair. So I was riding a bike, it's my personal story. I was riding a bike one day, I don't know, my mother sent me to purchase something from market. And then they stopped me, only to measure the size of my hair. So I was scared to death, and I rode my bike to Taliban. They were chasing me up, down the hill to the narrow road. So I don't know how I escaped, but still I have the nightmare of those two Taliban chasing me. And I still feel that they are after me. So that is the kind of Afghanistan we were talking about at that point. I was really young, and by listening to radio, mainly the BBC at that point, I knew some English. We have an expression in Persian in Afghanistan, we say, I was the I was the guy with one eye in a blind city. So I knew some English, so I opened an English course to educate my people, even with that sort of environment we had. After 2, 3, 4 months, two friends of mine and I, we opened this course, and we were charging just a small amount of money, but our main goal was to educate people because many girls were not allowed outside, so it was only for boys. But then again, to our bad luck, one day the Taliban come and they close it down. They say that you have to have Islamic teachings in English. So that was quite difficult for us. How could we do that? Like to teach like how are you and things like that at that point, quite basic terms of English in Islam. So that was closed down. Then a new chapter opened in Afghanistan. It was right after the fall of the Taliban party. Still, I was really young, and the new chapter, it was a good beginning and a very bright beginning for myself as well, like lots of other young people in Afghanistan, for boys and girls. So in 2003, I made it to the BBC. I was really, really young, and they wouldn't hire me, but then they signed the the agreement with my parents, because that was child labor. And then each time my father would go and collect my salary. I mean, that was the life we were struggling with. I mean, like a generation is struggling to survive. Afghans are quite resilient, I'm sure you have heard. But we are somehow the products of the post-9/11 in Afghanistan. A generation has emerged, as I was just telling you before as well. We are the face of a transformed nation in Afghanistan. We have come really a long, long way. I mean, I'm not only, when I'm saying we, I'm talking about the whole other society in Afghanistan, the girls as well. So our generation, they have come a really long way. Our generation now, they have prisons in many big political arenas, cultural and economic spheres of Afghanistan. In most of the policy-making decisions, we have a say, both boys and girls in Afghanistan. And our networks are quite strong, that it looks like a spider, webs in the country. So we are very much well connected with each other in the country. After the post-Taliban, especially after 2011, which I quite remember, we were thinking of rebranding Afghanistan. So what we mean by rebranding? We wanted to give a new face to the country because we were well connected, we were equipped with the cutting-edge technologies, some of us knew language, so we thought that this start based on the fact that Afghanistan has got all the assets. Afghanistan's location-wise, strategic location, we call it the heart of Asia, we call it an economic hub. And in old days, this was the Silk Road. Lots of poets, I'm sure, from India crossed that road. Caravans, they crossed that road. So that's why geographically, Afghanistan has got such a good location that we thought that this is an asset for us, that we can use it as we are today. Rich natural resources. Afghanistan's mineral mines are estimated at about $3 trillion now. So even though we are perhaps some of the poorest nation on earth, but in reality we are the richest in terms of our mineral resources. I will just touch base on that as well, that our government now has been working on that, how they can extract that. Ecological diversity, tourism, Afghanistan is the best place actually to visit. So I would encourage, of course at your own risk in terms of security, but otherwise it's a beautiful country. Those of you who have been there, it's great. We have got four proper seasons. And a few days ago I was speaking to a friend, Ruchi Kumar, who I call her the peace ambassador of India to Afghanistan, because perhaps she's one of the few female Indians who's working in Afghanistan. I told her that how is it going on in Kabul. She was saying that she had, I think, a family member coming to Afghanistan on a honeymoon. So imagine, the country is so beautiful. I've been to Shimla and Manali, but we have like same valleys in Afghanistan. The hospitality is always there, especially for the Indian friends. So We have got a young generation, a young population as well. Like 48% of the Afghan population is under the age of 15. So we are a very, very young population. So these are some of the assets I'm talking about. Why we are rebranding the country. We have got warriors, you know, the cricket champions, for example. We have got footballers in Afghanistan. We have got, like, you know, the ones that I just showed you. The wrestlers, for example. Last night, one of our MMA fighters beat his Brazilian rival in Afghanistan and knocked him out. So which made it to the headlines in the news. A couple of days ago, a couple of our wrestlers came to India and they got like 17 medals in India. So of course our cricket, you know, everyone knows that they are the peace ambassadors in Afghanistan. So these are some of the assets that we have in the country, and our generation has been using them actually to develop the country, to go forward, to move forward. So that is why, as a result of these assets, we have now gained a lot in the country. I mean, this was an Afghanistan of 2011, but trust me, when you go there, the country has changed absolutely, especially over the last 14 years. We have had so many projects, infrastructure projects, that we have implemented which has changed the face of the city. We have a dynamic, committed, and a young generation which they have emerged, you know, and they are working really hard. They look forward. Their slogan is that we will never get back. We will never have a sit back. So that is the slogan they have. They're well connected to the world, well equipped with cutting-edge technologies, for example. Cafes in Kabul, I don't know people who have been there. Cafes in Kabul have sprung up on the streets of Kabul in a tea-drinking Afghanistan, you know, by drinking coffee and pastries now. These are the signs of social change in the country. So when you go in the evenings, like alongside the Kabul roads, the cafes are there, the cafeterias are there. Some of them, I'm sure some of our Indian friends also go there, slides, cupcake, and many more, of course. So boys and girls sit together, they chat about their future. So this is a new Afghanistan I'm talking about, and we are talking about. Despite shortcomings, we have got, perhaps one of our base achievements has been establishing institutions in the country. So we have got a constitution in Afghanistan which defines the rights and the principles of the society and how we should be living and what kind of relationship we should have. 10 million Afghan kids go to school now, so that is huge, you know, that shows how we have developed. Tens of thousands of Afghan boys and girls go to universities. So at least 40% of what I just said, they are actually the female. So both going to universities and in schools. There are 34 public universities in Afghanistan, state-run, and 121 private universities. So now you can imagine, we are got from lots of countries, and we really hope that we have an affiliation of an Indian university in Afghanistan quite soon as well, because we have got the American University of Afghanistan and loads of more. So hopefully to have branches there as well. Since I'm in India and I'm talking about, you know, students, maybe it's nice, it's very interesting for you guys to know as well that 60,000 students have come to India and they graduated since 2002 from India. So most of them on funded scholarships by ICCR. So that is another revolution that Afghanistan has had. And 16,000 students are currently studying here now. You know, we have gained a lot, I mean, in different aspects. Now, we have got a very well-trained and very professional national and defense security forces. 340,000 trained. So they are like working round the clock. There, at that time, when I was making the documentary, we had 25 channels, but we have 100 TV channels now in Afghanistan. 100 TV channels. And most of them, if they don't, I mean, if they cannot compete with the Indian channels, at least, I mean, they are like, if you watch it, you will not believe it's Afghanistan. So the programs that you have here, like Sarigama Pa, we have like the same ones in Afghanistan, like the Afghanistan and many more, that they entertain people. The soap operas, they dub it in Persian as well, or in Pashto as well, in our local, in our national languages. I always say this to my Indian friends, when the Taliban fell from power, one of the first things that Afghans faced was the soap opera Kyuki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. So that was so popular in Afghanistan that I don't know if I told you, one day I come home and then one of my family members is crying. I say, why? They say, Gautam has died. I say, who is Gautam? They say that he is Tulsi's husband. So that is the kind of change, that is the kind of effect it has had on the people in the country. Cinema-wise, 160 radio channels we have in the country, by the way. Cinema, at that point when I was making this documentary, we didn't have that. But let me announce it. We have got a beautiful lady running for the first time our cinema in Afghanistan, Sahel Karimi, who has a doctorate, a PhD in cinema. And as I'm speaking now, they are releasing 100 Afghan films, and they are screening in Kabul on the occasion of the 100-year anniversary of Afghanistan's Independence Day. So while we are speaking now, I'm sure, what time is it? I'm sure lots of families in Kabul are watching, at least in 4 cinemas, the films, the documentaries that Afghanistan has produced. So we are progressing and we are developing. The presence of women in Afghanistan is quite significant as well. I mean, in comparison to what I said in the film there. We have got now more than 27% of presence of our female MPs in the parliament. I think more than India, if I'm not wrong. I think in India it's 14%. So even the US, so the women in Afghanistan, they have got the platform. I mean, despite challenges and security challenges, the good thing is that, as I said, they have that resilience, that they say we keep going and we keep moving. What next? I mean, again, as you hear about the talks, about the security things, the elections coming up, so people are again in fear and hope. But the good thing is that we'll always say that we Afghans have a warrior DNA. So that is the DNA which has kept us alive for so many thousand years. Despite many emperors come to Afghanistan and they have gone back, but we have lived our lives. And we are still striving to live, and we have survived. So, I mean, this is the kind of new Afghanistan we are talking about. The new Afghanistan has changed. Our generation has changed. And we look forward to a brighter future no matter what comes up. Because the good thing is that the younger generation that I'm talking about, they are so well connected, they are very united when it comes to such issues. And the good thing is that they have a say in policy making. So that was a kind of a glimpse of like how today's Afghanistan looks like. But I could talk like for hours, about the new Afghanistan, and I really hope that I invite you guys that if everything allows you, you should go and see it with your own eyes. Afghans are quite hospitable, as I said, one of the assets that we have, and they love their Indian brothers and sisters. When I asked Ruchi Kumar that how do people treat you, she says that people treat me on the streets more than you Afghans get respected, I get respected. And sometimes she says that my Afghan friends, they ask me to go to a bazaar, to markets, to get discount. So Ruchi gets more discount than Afghans do in Afghanistan. So that is the kind of Afghanistan we are talking about. Of course, at the end, once again, I would like to thank you and all the people who have come here. I appreciate again the contribution that the Indian government is making to Afghanistan. It's quite huge. And as I said, I brought only a very good example of 60,000 students who have graduated from India. That is an army, That is like huge, 60,000 people who have been educated in India, they have gone back to Afghanistan. So that's huge. And of course, the same bilateral relationship is still there, and we are hoping actually to strengthen it further. So thank you so much again, my friend, for organizing this. And I'm really sorry for talking from here to there and about different aspects, because I'm quite excited. When I speak about today's Afghanistan, I don't know what point to talk about, because there is so much. I mean, as I said, I have suffered as a young person because I lived my whole life in Afghanistan, except for the time that I was employed by the BBC to work in London. But rest of the time I was there. So we have seen everything with our own eyes. As I said, our generation, they look forward. They will not sit back. So they look to the future. There is light at the end of the tunnel. No matter what happens, we will we go forward, and we will be working towards a prosperous Afghanistan.
Tell us something about the political thing.
Hello. Ashok, please wait for the microphone to come and ask you a question. Yeah, now you are.
I thought that my beautiful Afghanistan is so well that, that we should not be touching on the Taliban.
That's true. But could you tell us something about the current developments? The Taliban problem and the peace process, in how many pockets and which places the Taliban is strong, and the international scenario that which countries are cooperating to bring peace in. Is India a factor? How do you measure India's contribution for the peace process in Afghanistan?
Well, thank you. I think Afghanistan is again at a very important juncture today. So the peace talks are going on. Our government is committed to holding our elections on 28th of September this year. So everything is set for that as well, because we believe that the only means of moving forward and developing the country through democratic means, which is elections, because that is one of our biggest achievements we gained. The talks have been going on. Of course, it has got many stakeholders. The Afghan government, 2-3 days ago, they announced a 15-member of negotiating team to go and talk face-to-face to the Taliban, because what has happened before that, there have been dialogues. So which happened in Qatar, which happened in Moscow, and which happened in many other countries. Because the real negotiation will be done through the Afghan government, as the Afghan government has always said. So we are going towards an Afghan-led, Afghan-controlled, and Afghan-run peace process. So the 15 members, which is a very diverse team of politicians, of activists, male and female, they will be quite soon on their way to meet the Taliban and to speak with them face to face. But let me tell you what happened in the previous dialogues. Some of our young activists who attended there, since I'm talking about this phenomenon of young generation in Afghanistan, they faced the Taliban face to face and they talked with them. They say that Afghanistan, since you haven't been in Afghanistan for 18 years, we have changed. How much have you changed? So that is the question which we are bringing today as well. Afghanistan has changed. So if any party wants to come to Afghanistan, they need to integrate into the Afghan society, because there have been loads of gains, loads of achievements which I just mentioned. As I said, there have been a lot of stakeholders. Many countries, regional countries, are involved in it, which the Afghan government appreciates, because they believe that there needs to be a regional and national consensus for building peace and having an enduring peace in Afghanistan. India's contribution has been that India has always been supporting the position of the Afghan government, a legitimate government, which it is doing the position of our current government. So we appreciate it, and of course, whatever happens at the end of the day, as I said, it will be through the Afghan government. So what we are doing now, our government has been doing now, traveling around to build consensus, around, to build regional consensus, to come so that, they're all on the same page when it comes to peace process in Afghanistan. So in the coming days, as the Americans, our American counterparts have said, quite soon they will be, by 1st of September, they will be, if there is a deal, of course, once the Afghan government sit with the Taliban, and if they agree on something, then they will announce it, but we have to wait and see, how the deal unfolds and how the situation unfolds.
Do you think the Taliban would have changed since they were in power last and played havoc for 5 years? Mr. Trump is in a great hurry to get out, because the war in the last 8 years has cost the American taxpayer $1 trillion, which is as much as it cost the Vietnam War. Are people in your country worried about the possibility of Taliban, doing what they did the last time they came to power? How do your people expect to cope with the situation at that time? Because your women are now getting educated, it's a different young Afghanistan. But how will you tackle an outfit? And how do you look at Mr. Trump was saying, I want to educate our people, and he was very friendly with Mr. Imran Khan. I think he scheduled to go to Afghanistan. I don't know. So, what is the average Afghan thinking about the possibility of Taliban coming back? and doing the kind of things they did in the past?
Well, the international community has invested in Afghanistan in both blood and treasure, which we appreciate. Same like we lost loads of our soldiers, the international community, including especially the United States, they lost and they sacrificed lots of their soldiers in Afghanistan, which again, it is it is something which has happened in the country. But regarding the concerns of the Afghan people, the Afghan people, they have been drawing their red lines. The red lines are, quite clear. We want our constitution to be preserved, number one. The human rights, women's rights, the freedom of expression, which we feel that is one of the biggest achievements of our government and our country. They need to be achieved. So even our women, they have been long chain campaigns, like My Red Line is one of the biggest campaigns, for example, that many women come out and they say that my red line is this, my red line is that. And these red lines are quite obvious, because we don't want any group to give us our rights. Our people don't want any groups, any party to give them their rights. The rights of the people are stipulated in the constitution, in the Afghan constitution, so that defines everything. To be honest, since we have got a very strong national and defense security forces in Afghanistan, and they're fighting the Taliban on many fronts now. So people are not, to be honest, that worried. Of course, people are worried about, if there is like a bad deal, they feel that we might be losing, our achievements, the gains we have achieved. But we look forward. We believe that the 15 people who will be representing Afghanistan in the talks, which will happen quite soon, they will be standing to defend, the rights of the people, because these red lines are quite, there, bold. Like constitution, the constitution, that's the red line of Afghan people. Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, the name, that's the red line for people, for almost every ordinary Afghan, no matter, from which walk of the society they come from. But the concerns are there, of course, as I said, while we are quite optimistic about the future, because we have got the elections coming quite soon. So, there will be another legitimate government, another legitimate president, same like now, coming out of the Afghan elections. But at the same time, we really hope, that there is a good deal, because our Afghan representatives will be there, our civil society will be there, the women will be there, so they will be speaking face to face to the Taliban to compromise a deal. And as I say, whoever wants to come to Afghanistan to join the peace process, Afghanistan welcomes them, but they need to integrate into Afghanistan, because as I say, Afghanistan has changed a lot over the last 18 years. So whoever has changed, they can come and they can see it. I'm sure the Taliban have seen, our young activists in the recent dialogues in Qatar, and they were, candidly talking about, what they want, what their expectations are. I think the basic expectations have been defined in our Afghan constitution. So people don't want anything beyond that, and that's there in the constitution.
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Wonderful to see the documentary. It's hard to believe that the journalist turned diplomat. Excellent. So I have two questions. One is, could you talk a little bit about the Afghan economy and your current GDP, and what are the new opportunities for trade and investment which are opening up? As you said, Afghanistan is changing. In the context of that, what are the new opportunities opening up economically? And you know that we have a global trade war which is going on. So can you tell us about Afghanistan's stand on the whole thing?
Great, thank you. So Afghanistan's economy has been boosting, of course, same like other things, since we have got a lot of money coming into Afghanistan, a lot of investments. But since, I always talk only whenever I measure out something. I have got, our trade attaché here, Mr. Sahal. So for us, to respect, the portfolio that he's working on, because he has got all the statistics and everything. So maybe Sahal, if you could please talk about the trade and...